This is the Vacation Rental Success Podcast, keeping you up to date with news, views, information and resources on this rapidly changing short-term rental business. I'm your host, Heather Bayer, and with 25 years of experience in this industry, I'm making sure you know what's hot, what's not, what's new, and what will help make your business a success. Well, hello and welcome to another episode of the Vacation Rental Success Podcast. This is your host, Heather Bayer, and as ever, I'm super delighted to be back with you once again as we approach, if you're listening to this on the day of publication, the Labor Day weekend. I remember it well. I remember just seeing it at the beginning of the summer. The Labor Day weekend was this thing that was in the way far distance, and I really wanted to get there very soon, and the summer seems to stretch out and take an awful long time to get there, and it actually has done this year as well. You know, the summer has stretched out, but for a whole load of different reasons other than being in the property management business. I've had a slew of family come and stay from Germany, from the UK, from the US, and it's been an awesome summer. But as I see the Labor Day approaching, I am thinking now of, what's going to happen in September, October, November, December. I'm so excited. I'm so happy to announce I'll be delivering a 90-minute AI Skills Lab workshop at the Vacation Rental Management Association, the VRMA conference, in October. Really excited about that. It's pretty hands-on. It's just going to be awesome. So if you are going to VRMA in October and you want some foundational knowledge on AI, I mean, maybe you're using ChatGPT and you're using Perplexity and some of these other things, but what I aim to do in this session is to distill a lot of that into a real summary of how it's going to practically work for you. And if you come to the session, you're going to go away with some really practical strategies for doing something the moment you get back to work. I've got some great plans. I think you'll really enjoy it if you come along. Can't wait to see people there. We're also launching our AI Ambassador program in a few weeks' time towards the end of September. And once again, super excited about that. It's an 8-week program to help people who are in a business, whether you're a founder, you might be the principal, or you might be somebody within the business, or you're the founder and you want somebody in the business to become your cheerleader for AI. Somebody who everyone else can go to and say, hey, should I be using this? Should I be using this platform? Or I've seen this and it seems like it's a good plan for the business, but I'm not sure whether to use it or not. This person, this AI ambassador, is going to be trained to be the one that will guide you in the right direction, guide the business in the right direction in terms of AI adoption. If you want to know more, just get in touch with me or go to vacationrentalformula.com/AI to get more information. So here we are today, and I'm absolutely delighted to welcome back someone I've known for many years. My friend Jessica Gillingham, the founder of Abode Worldwide, and now a published author. I love it to see people publishing. Michelle Marquis has just published her first book. We will be talking about that in a future episode. But for today, we're talking to Jessica. She's the author of Tech-Enabled Hospitality. Jessica is so well respected in this industry and in the wider world of hospitality and PR. And she's worked closely with some of the most forward-thinking companies in the hospitality space. She and her agency have helped shape the message of countless startups and scale-ups in short-term rental, in hotel and multifamily tech. And she's got a remarkable way of blending insight and empathy and her deep industry knowledge, making her one of the most trusted communicators in our field. And I think that is indisputable. She's also a frequent speaker on stages like VRMA in the US and in Europe in the past, the Short Stay Summit, Scale, Skift, and she's just released the book that brings together her years of experience and conversations with over 30 industry leaders. So we're going to talk about the book, of course, but more importantly, we're going to explore what it really means to offer tech-enabled hospitality. And she's going to explain what that means in a world where digital meets human. And I have to say, it's always a joy to talk to Jessica, especially because our paths first crossed over a decade ago at a cottage life show in Toronto. So this episode feels like a full circle moment. And she tells me something in the introduction that I never knew about how we really first encountered each other. So let's go on over to this great discussion with Jessica Gillingham. Well, I am super happy to have back with me once again, Jessica, what's your surname now?
Gillingham.
You're still using Gillingham. I am so happy to have back with me again, Jessica Gillingham from Abode Worldwide. Jessica, it's just fantastic to have you back again. We haven't seen each other for ages. I think it was a previous Verma conference a couple of years ago. What have you been doing since then?
Yeah, Heather, so good to see you, and thank you for having me on. And I think it was probably maybe 2 Vermas ago that we last saw each other. And the last time I was on your podcast, I think it was about 8 years ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah, 7 or 8 years ago. It was quite some time ago. So very pleased to be, always happy to see you, but very pleased to be on. So thank you for having me.
Oh, it's an absolute pleasure. And you know, we're going to talk a little bit about your new book, Tech-Enabled Hospitality. But first of all, I just want to catch up. I want to find out, and maybe we start off with you telling the listeners who you are, how you got into the short-term rental and hospitality, because it's a bit broader for you, how you got into the hospitality business, and a little bit of your history leading up to today.
Absolutely, Heather. And it's quite a long one, and you're in it, my history. So I will sort of start, I'll do potted, but I'll start from the beginning. So I'm British and Canadian, despite the fact I sound extremely British. And I always wanted to have a career that combined the two. So I started my career working in Canadian travel, working for a tour operator. And I had this dream and idea of selling holiday cottages to British people. And I found this brochure of a holiday company that really just inspired me. And it was like, I want to do what this company's doing. And it was these beautiful cottages on Canadian lakes and selling it to the UK market. And because I was Canadian, I knew of the existence of this. And I also knew that it didn't exist in the UK. Nobody in the UK knew what it was, except for, turned out it was you, Heather, your company that you had. And was it Clearwater Holidays?
That's absolutely correct, yes.
Yeah, so it really kind of inspired me. And I was like, I'm going to set up a company that does this. Years and years later, I set up a booking platform, if you like, for holiday cottages in Canada. And I did that for 2 or 3 years. And it was around the same time that Airbnb came out. And I sort of did fine with it, but I also didn't really know what I was doing with it. But it was, it was the cusp of something like booking platforms. What that sort of led me to, and my background was always marketing and PR. And, I've worked a lot in travel and hospitality, but I've worked in some other sectors as well. And what it led me to is that realization that there was a real growing, I guess, opportunity in the short-term rental, vacation rental market. It was just as a lot of the tech companies were taking off. It was kind of around about 2014, 2015. Lots of the technology companies were coming out. Airbnb was becoming much more mainstream. There was a lot more opportunity and choice for travelers because there was a lot more property, short-term rental offering. So I sort of started my career in the short-term rental space as a PR agency. And very soon after I launched, I thought I would work more with the property managers and that side. But actually, the companies that really needed the kind of the positioning help, the visibility help, were the tech companies that were sort of growing up within short-term rentals. So that's how Abode Worldwide really started, is we really specialized in the tech side of short-term rentals. And we've been really fortunate to work with many of the sort of leading tech companies, as well as the startups that have kind of really innovated in short-term rentals. And today we also now work in hotel technology, as well as some of the modern rental living technology as well. But that's kind of how I got into vacation rentals and what I'm doing now. And we're a global agency. We have a team that specializes in public relations and reputation management and visibility across those lodging sectors.
That is such a great progression of that startup. I remember meeting you at the Cottage Life show in Toronto. And
that was at least 15 years after I had the brochure for your holiday company. But I didn't realize you were the same person. It was only later that I realized you were the same person.
Yeah. Oh, amazing. When you mentioned that brochure, I've still got that brochure. I can't believe how expensive that was to create.
It was beautiful.
I remember going to a show in Bournemouth, our very first show back in 1990 something, and having all these brochures that cost about £5 each to produce. And just being shocked by people just coming by the booth and just grabbing everything, the brochures and the free pens, and just saying to somebody, so you're interested in a cottage in Canada? Oh, no, dear, I've just come for the free stuff.
That's probably where I got the brochure, actually, your brochure, because I was working in Canadian skiing then. And I may have been, at that same event potentially.
You may have been. Oh my goodness. I remember Mike coming along, Mike, my son, and his friend, and they were both 17. And they'd hired themselves Mountie uniforms, which I think is really quite illegal. But they were patrolling the whole of the conference floor in these Mountie uniforms.
Watching out for the pen stealing.
Oh, the little old ladies just loved them. Oh, gosh. So, memory lane. I know we're going to meet up at Verma in Las Vegas this year, and we will really, really catch up. But I'm just so interested in what you're doing now. You started out in the rentals and hospitality, and then sort of veered towards tech. And do you think there's a divide? There's still a divide between the notion of hospitality and the tech that goes along with it? Because I know that, the people I talk to in hospitality, they talk about the tech as almost something to be afraid of. And it feels like there is some sort of median in there that needs to be overcome.
Yeah, that's really interesting, Heather. And as you know, I've just launched a book, or just written a book called Tech Enabled Hospitality. And that's actually one of the themes within the book, is that there is a divide of hospitality that is sort of tech enabled and sees technology as an investment for growth, or for just doing a better job, doing a better service, better operations, better efficiency. And then the other divide is seeing it as either a cost or a sort of a must-have, a kind of a pain in the ass, gotta have for bits. So it's a real kind of cultural mind shift between the two sides of looking at technology. And in the book, which covers short-term rentals and it also covers hotels, I've spoken to leaders across both the operation side as well as the tech leader side. So the kind of the operators, if you like, and the tech. And every single person that I spoke to, despite some of them were CTOs, like deep technologists, it still was loud and clear that the core of what we're offering is hospitality. So, and that technology just enables that. It can just make it smoother, better, more personalized. So that, and more, the guests are expecting a much more digitalized experience. Now, obviously, what we're offering is physical spaces. We're offering buildings and physical spaces and physical experiences. But the whole rest of the guest journey, from search to booking to checking in to checking out to being within a property, all the communication side, guests want it to be digital. They want it to be really frictionless and smooth. So that's where technology comes in.
Can you give us a sort of a guest journey of this digital experience that also meets their needs in terms of hospitality?
Yeah, and I think, all of us have been customers of hospitality. We've all been guests, whether it's in a hotel or a short-term rental, every single one of us, all of your listeners, like we're probably quite regularly customers of hospitality. And if you think about what we're used to in our day-to-day lives, everything is on our phone. And certainly in the UK, everything from, our doctor's appointments are on our phones, to our banking, to where we buy our shopping, to our books that we read, to the films that we watch, the music that we listen to. Everything else is digitalized, and it's pretty frictionless. If you want to either purchase something or choose something or do something, many areas of our lives are now digitalized, and it is all on our phone, and it's there, and it knows what we're expecting and wanting. It knows our preferences, all of that stuff. The area where there is still a disconnect is actually in hospitality. So we might go searching on the OTAs, we might go searching on Google, we might be searching through those kind of means, and then trying to find the thing that suits us. Like, it's not an easy journey to find the right place for us. Now, obviously, technology and AI and the way search is changing that. So it sort of does begin in that search phase, looking for what we want. And then when we've found a property that we want to book, whether it's a hotel stay or it's a cottage in Canada or it's a villa in Spain or whatever it is, it can be clunky, that booking bit. So we either book it through one of the OTAs, and then we go through that. But what happens then, of course, is that the property manager doesn't have the booking details. So it's not a smooth journey. Or we might go and find, it directly. So the journey isn't smooth. It's not all in one place. It's not smooth. They don't have our details. So how many times have you stayed in a hotel where they haven't remembered things about you? So even if you have to do your passport, for credentials again, or it is they want to know, your preferences again, or they don't know what your telephone number is, or they're asking you again for your email address because it hasn't linked up on that guest journey. All of those things, it's clunky. And our information can be in all sorts of different places. It might be in the OTA app. It might be on email, some of the confirmation stuff. Other bits we might get WhatsApped. It's not a smooth, easy journey most of the time. So that's sort of part of how that digitalized customer journey. And it's really about not feeling like you're known and seen by the hospitality provider. Now, that doesn't mean that when you're in stay, it's not perfect, which is what hospitality gets really, it does really well when you're in stay, but it's all the stuff around. It's all the before, it's the stuff afterwards. It's also that communication whilst you're in stay as well.
So whose responsibility is it to make that smoother? It's because it's fragmented all the way through. Is it the technology side, or is it the hospitality side? Is it the property manager or the host has that responsibility to make it smoother, or do they come in at different times, which in itself is fragmented?
I think it's really, we're in a process, aren't we? We're in a process of improvement of that sort of digital journey. So really it takes investment. So investment doesn't always mean money. So for operators, it's really thinking about, okay, if I think about my guest journey, can I invest some time in mapping that out? Where does it begin? And then what are the different stages? And how am I using my tech stacks to kind of go along that whole journey? Some of it's just, we're not there yet as an industry. We're siloed. Our data is siloed in different places, whether it is in the PMS or it's in the CRM, it is kind of siloed. So we're just not there yet. So that's one of the things that I explored in the book is, where are we now, and where are we possible, particularly with AI and new tools and innovation coming in. So it's really a look at the fact that, and one of the other kind of big things about the book is that there is, and you sort of said about a bit of a divide. The other divide is that there is a sort of a feeling sometimes that you can't provide hospitality and technology are mutually exclusive. You know, they're not. You can provide brilliant hospitality with technology. It's just in a different way. And really what hospitality is about also is about meeting your guests where they are and understanding them, meeting their needs, seeing them. And if technology can help you do that better, then that's tech-enabled hospitality.
So were you surprised at anything when you did your research for the book? Did something come out at you that you thought, I have not thought about this before, this is innovative, or something that perhaps challenged your status quo in terms of tech?
There were quite a few things that weren't on my radar. So things like really looking at intent, looking at search intent rather than looking at booking patterns. That was kind of not.
What do you mean by that, by search intent?
So being able, with AI, being able to understand what people are thinking about rather than what they're actually doing by their search patterns, by their booking, by their sort of, you know, what they're doing on websites, that kind of thing. So really sort of being able to kind of understand or predict what they might do before they actually do it. So that stuff I hadn't been kind of aware of. Other things that came up that were kind of a bit broader hospitality is looking at space as a service. So really reimagining space, whether that's a hotel or it's a short-term rental. It's like, rather than just sort of selling room nights, looking at it a bit differently and thinking, can this room do this during the day but this at night? Can this lobby area do this, but can we sell it as co-working? You know, maybe another time. So some operators are starting to really look at that, looking at, rather than selling on nights, but selling on square footage or on space. So that was something that kind of blew my mind a little bit, or, you know, that I hadn't really thought of. Other ones and new kind of things is attribute-based selling. So a bit like airlines do. So starting to look, and this is more for hotel rooms than for short-term rentals, but starting to look at selling attributes to a room rather than just a room. And what that might be is preferences. So it's like, I'm willing to pay more if there is a balcony, but it doesn't necessarily mean rooms with balconies cost more, but I'm willing to pay more than you might be willing because it's important to me. So those kinds of things. And it's a bit like on an airline, you know, I might be willing to pay more for a seat in this area than you might be. So it's that kind of thing. But I think the biggest surprise was that what I said before, that the people that I interviewed, the leaders that I interviewed, deep tech guys and women, and that they all said that the fundamentals were still about hospitality. You know, they talked about the guest experience. They all talked about the customer experience and how it felt, rather than, you know, these nuts and bolts and widgets and, you know, that kind of thing.
So when you've got a property manager out there looking for a tech solution, and now you see these maps of how much tech is out there and the graphics that just show just enormous amounts of different types of tech. So if somebody's out there looking for a piece of tech, they are faced with lots of options. If they're wanting to, you know, if they are at that side of the divide that says, you know, I have to have this, but I want to make sure it fits into my hospitality-focused business, what should they be looking for in the tech?
So there is so much. And at Abode Worldwide, we actually launch and publish a short-term rental tech index. And our third one comes out in October. And I think we're going to have around 250 tech tools within that index. So firstly, if you're looking, that'd be a good thing to kind of pick up because it does have all of them. But I think it is, again, it's being strategic about it. It's like, what actually is the problem that I'm looking to solve? So is it that I don't feel that I'm, you know, is it the communication with my guests that is taking too much time, or there's too many errors, or it's, it's not efficient enough, or there's too many, we're dropping balls, or we're not connecting in the way that we need to? Is it around the booking and the channels and all of that? Or is it around team? Is it that I know that there is a way that I can be using my team's time and resources better? That is the headache. So really kind of mapping out what are the challenges and the headaches that you have, and then it's going into the solution. And I'd say that keep it really simple. There are loads of really good all-in-one tools out there. There are also ones that are point solutions. If that's, if it is that you really know that your revenue management and your pricing could be so much better, there's point solutions for that, as well as, a really good PMS. I think that it is up to the tech companies to help educate the property managers. So, and many of the tech companies have, obviously you have to do it with a pinch of salt and because they're obviously trying to promote themselves, but there's also a lot of really good educational content out there that can help you understand, is this right for me? It's also looking at other users of that tech and going to trade shows and conferences like VRMA to go and just check them out and see if they're a fit for you.
So this episode is brought to you in part by the Straight Chat community, the online gathering place for short-term rental professionals who want more than surface-level advice. We've created this community for those people who want to explore new tools, to talk about the real challenges they're having, and to connect with others who get it. Straight Chat's where those meaningful conversations are happening, and we're sharing news and innovations and new tools and anything you want to know, along with office hours each week and regular tutorials. And along with that, if you've been seriously curious about AI, about how to use it for guest messaging or workflows, setting up standard operating procedures, or even marketing, check out the AI Ambassador Program. It's designed for short-term rental professionals who want to lead the way with smart, ethical AI adoption. You don't need to be a tech expert. You just need curiosity and a desire to stay ahead of the curve and to lead the way in your company. Visit vacationrentalformula.com/AI to learn more and to join us. I know that, over the years, I've been to dozens of conferences, and VRMA conferences, particularly the exhibition hall, is just massive. And I've been guilty of turning up at a VRMA when I was a property manager without really thinking about what my pain points and bottlenecks and problems actually were. So then you walk into this hall and you're confronted with a gazillion bright, shiny things. And I wanted everything. So if you had a message for any property managers who are heading to Las Vegas to VRMA this year, what would you say to them now in terms of what they should prepare for? And I think, you've definitely touched on that in what you just said about knowing what you want, but perhaps you can just broaden that a little bit to give them some clear advice on the homework they need to do before they set foot in that hall.
Firstly, don't be swayed by the shiny pens and the socks and the T-shirts and all the sweets and candy that are on those shiny stands, because you'll be very much trying to be sold to at the trade shows, which is great and it's fine. And it's an opportunity to get demos and see lots of tech in action. Often especially VRMA, the founders and the CEOs of the big tech companies are there as well. So it's worth trying to have a little conversation with them if you can, because they are often at the stand or wandering around, which you don't actually get at quite a few of the other conferences. But I think that the way it's research, and obviously we're coming out of a busy season, so everyone's really busy, but it is just really write down what it is. What's your dream that technology could help you with? And write it down. Get very granular on what parts of your business, parts of your staff journey, your owner journey, your guest journey that you could see improvements in. And then think about questions that you might want to ask. And it might be things like, how do you work with your customers to improve the roadmap of what you're doing? You can come and ask those questions as well. What happens if something goes wrong? How much are you in partnership with the point solutions? What's your funding journey? And how do I know you're going to be around in 2 years? Like, those sorts of questions are the things that you can be thinking about and asking. And it's just that research. And then also do your desk research in terms of the technology that you kind of feels like it's speaking to you as an operator. Because some of them will, they're not all targeted at the same size of operator or the same type of operator as well. So have a look at the ones that feel like you're the kind of customer they want as well.
Yeah, and I think, from my experience at going to these things, it's important to know the big stuff as well. If you're happy with your PMS, then you don't need, and probably there's PMS operators out there listening to this and saying, don't say this, but it's probably unnecessary for you to go and visit all the other PMS booths. Because
I agree.
Yeah, you're going to end up just completely overwhelmed. I remember one year going and thinking before I went, we really do need a new website. We have to have a new website. And I made that a real focus to go and talk. You get all the information on all the vendors before you go. Check out who's there selling what you want and make a list of them. That's my advice. Goes back to the old Cottage Life show, when we were a vendor at the Cottage Life show for Cottage Link Rental Management, and we were there for a specific purpose, which was to find new owner clients. And we would have some people come up to us and they had a list of all the rental agencies that were there. And they were seeking out those people. And it just makes your journey through those halls so much easier.
Absolutely. And another thing I would say is, if we're talking about Verma, because is that there's a lot of opportunity to talk to your peers and your other property managers, at the lunch tables. You get to sit by whoever, lots of different people. Ask them what they're doing, what they're looking for, what they're using, what's good, what's not. There's I think learning from your peers is so important.
Yeah. And the other thing I was going to say is that when you look, that list of questions is great. You can use AI for that. You can go into free ChatGPT and just say, I am going to the Verma conference, I'm a property manager or I'm a host, and give it some information, give it some context on who you are, and then say, I'm interested in this and this. What questions should I ask?
Yeah, absolutely.
And it will bring up this list of questions and, discard some, work with others, and don't ever take anything that ChatGPT gives you at face value. But that's a great start. And use AI to its fullest extent for your conference planning. So I brought that up. I brought up Verma because that is the biggest collection of vendors that you will ever find at a conference. So, it's definitely worthwhile doing that planning. Let's go back to hospitality and the human touch. How can technology get us being more rather than less hospitable? Because it's often thought was, like automation, you bring automation in and we've lost the human touch, we've lost the humanness. I'm obsessed with AI, involved with it hours and hours every day. But I still, when I write a LinkedIn post, it is my writing. So taking that to hospitality, how can it help but make people more hospitable?
Yeah, it's really interesting because my writing's my writing too. And but I use AI all the time for that sort of strategic thinking, research, brain expansion, looking around corners, working out things I hadn't thought of, all of that kind of stuff. But when it comes to actually copywriting, it's the human kind of side of it. It doesn't mean it can't be used to improve or just check grammar or whatever. But I think that so we've got automation. Automation makes things smoother. It makes things, maybe not smoother, but it takes away some human time that could be better spent elsewhere doing other things. So I think that's one thing, is that automation, if in your operations you've got the bits that can be automated, you can then move some of that time resource that you've saved because of the automation into other parts of your business, whether it's strategic, how can I run my business better, or it is guest facing, how can I put more into my guests, because I'm saving time and resources and money from the automation. How can I then put that in? So that's one way of looking at it. The other thing that I think that AI, and we're not quite there yet, but we're kind of on the cusp to there, is it's personalization. And it goes back to the point that I had before, is that hospitality isn't great at personalization at scale because of, the fact that we've got data silos. In terms of sort of tech adoption, it's slower just because of the natures of the businesses and the size of the businesses. So that ability to do personalization at scale, so that I know Heather likes a tea in her room, she likes a kettle, she likes this kind of milk, she likes these sorts of pillows, she likes the window open, and I never have to ask and I never get it wrong. And she likes to chat about her granddaughters, and I'll, any of those things that I can get, or we can get an understanding of who our customers are, who our guests are, and be able to meet them in a personalized way is what's really exciting. So it's almost like, yes, automation, yes, we can make things quicker, faster, more efficient, but actually what value can be added through that personalization piece? And I think that what we'll see going forwards is mind blown on how that is, whether it's through, agentic AI or the search part of it, or whilst you're in property as well. And we'll get really used to being understood as consumers and as customers by the service provider. And that goes the same for hospitality as it does for, Netflix understands and knows what kind of content we want.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. I look back, it's 3 years since I sold Cottage Link Rental Management.
Wow.
And I now think, oh my gosh, if I had AI then, how could I have used it? And there's just so many ways. And it's, we had a CRM, and wouldn't it have been great if every email that came in from a guest asking a question that had when we used to say to our reservationists, there's always messages in those emails. They're going to tell you something. They're going to tell you about their dog, or you say grandchildren, or an event, an anniversary that's coming up. Don't ignore those things. But as you say, creating hospitality at scale, that's a difficult bit. And that would have been difficult then. But now, those emails, that information from those emails can be directly just fed into the CRM and into that guest profile, so that anybody, the cleaner or the housekeeper, whoever's doing that property, has that information to hand. When they're doing that changeover, they can see there's an anniversary coming up, and that there's a card that they can just put a name in and just leave a message or a special gift. That it's made it so much easier now to do hospitality, that type of hospitality and welcoming at scale. Mm-hmm.
It's also on our preferences of how we like to be communicated with. Mm-hmm. Like I might like WhatsApp, you might like email. My cousin might like being communicated within an app. Like, if you can understand how your customer wants, where and how they want to be communicated with, is really powerful as well, because that's hospitality. It's not just when you're there, it's actually that part of it is fundamental.
Yeah, I remember, a number of years ago, and I was at an event that Matt Landau put on. It was a dinner. I was sat next to a lady, and Matt, as usual, threw out something, just this question that we'd never have thought of. And I can't remember what the exact question was, but we ended up talking about this, communication. How do we communicate with our guests? And the lady sat next to me and said, I only communicate by text. That is my way of communication. I'm not changing it. If people don't like text, well, they're just going to have to learn it. Wow. And that was, and I think I found that I struggled with that one because at that time I was new to an iPhone. You know, we never had a cell signal at home, so we didn't have those homes where you used an iPhone. So I was new to it. I was new to texting. And I thought how narrow-minded that was. And I think that narrow-mindedness is still around. And if you're listening out there, take one thing from this. It's, you've got to, for hospitality means coming out of that narrow-minded focus and being broader and thinking about what your guests really want. And technology can allow you to do that now.
Absolutely. It's an enabler, not the sort of the enemy to a hospitality, or it's not, mutually exclusive.
Yeah, I love that. That's a clip that I'm going to take out. It's an enabler. So thinking on small hospitality businesses, what advice would you have for them when they're embracing technology? And people have been embracing technology for years, but now it's got more maybe focused, more advanced. There's so much out there, as we said before. But what advice do you have for them if their resources are limited? And, we all have limited budgets.
I think that the first thing is make sure that you go with tech that is geared towards your level of business. So if you've got maybe, 5 properties or something, that you're going with the vendor that really understands that size and wants you as a customer. They're not the ones that are looking for the 200 property or the 50 property managers. Stay in your where you want to be. But at the same time, think about your ambitions for your business as well. Because, you also don't, if you have got ambitions to grow to 50 properties, you want to be able to have a partner that will grow, that will enable you to grow. You don't want to have to switch too many times. So I think that's one. And so it's making sure that you look at one that has as many tools as possible for where you are. And there are plenty that have what you need without, you spending a fortune or having 8 different tech companies within your stack. There are ones that have enough of what you need to do a good job.
Yes. Yeah. So have you got any favorite examples of hospitality brands that really get it right, get tech-enabled hospitality right?
Yeah, I think I've got a few actually, rather than kind of one. I think, and I'm actually going to pick a hotel. So I'm going to pick a short-term rental and a hotel actually. Okay. So Citizen M, which is a hotel brand, it just got bought by Marriott. And it's a European brand. They've got hotels in downtown London, downtown New York as well. So it's not just European. Originally it was. And they do what is called, I guess it's called aspirational luxury, right? Mm-hmm. So it's not luxury by any, they've got very simple rooms, but they've got everything you need for a visit that you might have. And for a long time, their lobby areas you don't go in and check in like you would, in a traditional. They've always done their sort of check-in slightly differently. And the center of the hotel is a cafe. It's a cafe and it's working stations, but every single one that you go to, it's the same. The room is the same, and they've got, all the technology within the room is the same as well. So whether you're in London or New York or Amsterdam, you know how to use everything. Also, they know you as well. So they kind of, you feel like they know you. So that would be one. And then another one.
Can I just step back? Yeah. So how do you feel they know you?
Do you know what? I think maybe it's not so much that you feel like they care about you. So even though this is a hotel where you probably don't spend more than 2 nights, it's mostly for business travelers. It's not for leisure, but you feel like they care about you, that you haven't just gone on some kind of big random website to sort of book it. They kind of care about you, and you know what you're going to get as well. So
is that through the people or through the technology?
Both. So they actually, the people, that is really interesting. I've actually interviewed one of the founders of it on my podcast, and they choose people that are real people. So the people they've got milling around in their lobby, so they don't have traditional receptionists or any of that, but they choose them for their personality. So they choose them for their cultural fit. Whether they've ever worked in a hotel or not is beside the point. But if they've really got that kind of service feel, they hire them for that. So they've got a real kind of hiring strategy that they do. So that's one, Citizen M. Another tech-enabled operator is another European company that's originally a Finnish company called Bob W. And they are short-term rentals that are in buildings across Europe. And actually one of their recent ones, I think, was in, I think it's Copenhagen. It was a prison where they've turned it into short-term rentals. And there's almost no staff within the buildings. And I've stayed in their properties as well. Even though there's no staff, you know that you can get hold of somebody on WhatsApp and that, you know, the guest experience is still vital, but they've managed to do a really good job of doing that kind of tech-enabled hospitality.
I like you've got Citizen M and Bob W. Is this a trend?
I guess it is. Yeah. It must be a bit of sort of a brandy thing, isn't it?
Yeah, I have to think about that. Tell us about your book, Jessica, a bit more.
Yeah, no, thank you, Heather. So my book is called Tech-Enabled Hospitality, and it's published by Gauguin Page, and it's published in UK and the rest of the world already. And then it comes out in the US and Canada, although this will probably be already out, but the end of August. And I was approached by Gauguin Page to write the book because they felt that there was, and Gauguin Page is a business publisher, they felt that there wasn't that much around hospitality out in the marketplace. And they asked me to come up with the theme. And I said, I'd like to do it on technology and tech-enabled hospitality. And it was quite the journey. You know, I think it was probably one of the hardest things I've done, but it was also one of the best things. I learned so much and I loved the process. So I interviewed over 30, as I said, sort of tech leaders and operators across short-term rentals and hotels to get their insight on various areas. And the book covers everything from the property management kind of side of things, to operations, to sustainability, to AI, of course, to IoT and operations and workforce and all of those, but also really looks at the future of hospitality as well. It looks at things like the convergence of different types. So whether it's short-term rentals that are doing kind of more apart hotel stays, or it's co-working in hotels, or it's multifamily that are starting to do short stays, looking at those sort of different kind of asset classes, if you like, and what the future is there. And really looking at that kind of cultural shift of how technology is an investment and an enabler rather than a cost and a kind of a needs must.
So what would a property manager get out of the book? What are they going to come away with after reading it?
I think a real understanding of the opportunity that's out there and the technology opportunity, and also learning from others. So most of the case studies in the book are larger companies, but it's still worth, looking at, because they've still got challenges and opportunities that they've solved or things that they've solved. So I think getting and it's not too techy either. So even though it covers technology, I'm not a technologist, like I'm a communicator. So it's a relatively easy read, although I did give it to my mother and she said, I have no idea what you're talking about in this book. But anyway, she was also very sweet about it, but she was kind of, I have no idea what this is about.
So you've probably got to be in the short-term rental or hospitality or hotel world.
Yeah.
Well, I think most of our listeners are. So how can you mentioned it's already out in the UK and Europe, be out in the US and Canada towards the end of August. So I guess usual channels via Amazon,
Gauguin Page, also Wiley, Barnes and Nobles, various other sources as well, but probably best to do it via Gauguin Page, which is the publisher, or Amazon. And it's in hardback, softback, Kindle as well.
Oh, well, congratulations, Jessica, for getting this out there. I'm always so impressed with people who do this thing, who write a book. I did mine back in 2007. I'm not sure I would go through that again. So I'm really impressed, and recommend that anybody out there in this industry gets their copy, because, for one thing, it's good to have that content, and for another, it's great that it's authored by somebody who's been in this industry for such a long time and has given so much to it. So thank you for that. I'll make sure all that information is on the show notes. And how can people get in touch with you if they'd like to speak to you personally?
So LinkedIn is always a good one. I'm always on LinkedIn. I will be at Verma International as well, or email jessica@abodeworldwide.com. And I actually forgot to mention that there is a discount if the book is booked directly with the publisher. It's Gogan page 25, and it's a 25% discount.
Okay, I will put that on the show notes as well. Jessica, always an absolute pleasure to talk to you, whether it's on the podcast or in the countless meals that we've had together. I'm just looking forward to our next one in Las Vegas.
Me too, Heather. Thanks so much for having me on.
Well, once again, such a pleasure to sit down with Jessica Gillingham. Every time we talk, whether it's on this podcast or at a conference or over lunch or dinner, which we've had on numerous occasions, I come away with new ideas, and that lovely reminder that while tech is moving fast, hospitality is still at its heart about people. So whether you're just starting to explore technology in your business, or you've been swimming in tools for years, and I know many of us have, I really recommend grabbing a copy of Jessica's book, Tech-Enabled Hospitality. It's practical, it's thoughtful, it's written in non-techie language, and grounded in real stories from both operators and innovators across our industry. You'll find all the links in the show notes, and I know that Jessica would love a review if you purchase the book and you enjoy it. And of course, if you're heading to Verma in Las Vegas this year, Jessica and I will both be there, so do come and say hello, and please join me in my AI Skills Lab workshop. That's going to be a lot of fun. So from me, thank you for having me in your ear for the last hour, and I look forward to seeing you next time. It's been a pleasure as ever being with you. If there's anything you'd like to comment on, then join the conversation on the show notes for the episode at vacationrentalformula.com. We'd love to hear from you, and I look forward to being with you again next week.